conservation efforts in India. Project Tiger is a centrally sponsored scheme launched in Jim Corbett National Park in the year 1973 with the following objectives. The objectives were to ensure maintenance of available population of tigers in India for scientific, economic, aesthetic, cultural, and ecological values. And it was to preserve for all times the area of such biological importance as national heritage for the benefit, education, and enjoyment of people. Now, aim of the Project Tiger was to conserve was the conservation of endangered species as well as harmonizing the rights of the tribal people living in and around the tiger reserve. Now, under the Project Tiger, tiger reserves are constituted on a core buffer strategy. Now, the state government shall, on the recommendation of National Tiger Conservation Authority, notify an area as a tiger reserve. Now, the tiger reserve includes tiger land tenure dynamics, that is a core region, a buffer region, habitat isolates, metapopulations, and sink populations. And the arrows would indicate the movement of the animal from core to buffer zones. Now, the habitat isolates will lie in the buffer zones, and metapopulations will inhabit those habitat isolates. The core zone is kept free from biotic disturbance and forestry operations. Activities like collection of minor produce, human disturbance, grazing, etc. are not allowed. These areas are required to be kept inviolate for the purpose of tiger conservations without affecting the rights of scheduled tribes or such other forest dwellers. Now, these areas are notified by the state government in consultation with an expert community. Then the buffer zone is the area peripheral to the core area. It provides supplementary habitat for dispersing tigers as well as offering scope for existence of human activity. The limit of such areas are determined by consultation with a concerned Gram Sabha expert committee constituted for that purpose. Now, modifications in the boundary of a tiger reserve can be done only on the recommendation of NTCA, and it should also be approved by the National Board of Wildlife. Now, this board is headed by Prime Minister. National Tiger Conservation Authority, that is NTCA, is a statutory board under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. It was established in 2005 following the recommendations of Tiger Task Force. Now, NTCA was constituted under the enabling provisions of Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 as amended in 2006 for strengthening tiger conservation as per powers and functions assigned to it. Now, the 4-year tiger census is led by NTCA and Wildlife Institute of India in collaboration with state forest departments. Some of the technologies used in estimating number of tigers include M-stripes, cataract, extract compare, spatially explicit capture and recapture, that is SECR method, cytochrome B markers, and maximum entropy model, that is MaxEnt. Now, 13 tiger ranges countries that are part of Global Tiger Recovery Program include Bangladesh, Bhutan, Nepal, India, China, Laos, BTR, Cambodia, Myanmar, Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Vietnam, and the Russian Federation. Now, Project Elephant was launched in February 1992 as a centrally sponsored scheme to assist states having free-ranging populations of wild elephants to ensure long-term survival of identified viable populations of elephants in their natural habitat. Now, the states are being given financial as well as technical assistance in achieving the following objectives of the project, that is to protect elephants, their habitats and corridors, to address issue of man-animal conflict and welfare of domesticated elephants. Now, to monitor the monitoring of illegal killing of elephants, that is MIKE, is a program, and it is mandated by COP resolution of sites as an international collaboration that tracks trends and information related to illegal killing of elephants from across Africa to Asia and to monitor effectiveness of field conservation efforts. Now, Hathi Mere Sathi is a campaign launched by Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change in partnership with Wildlife Trust of India (WTI) to improve conservation and welfare prospects of elephants. Now, E8 countries with significant populations of elephant include India, Botswana, Republic of Congo, Indonesia, Kenya, Sri Lanka, Tanzania, and Thailand. Now, E5050 forum is held by E8 countries for adopting common global vision on conservation, management and welfare of elephants across all range countries. Vulture Conservation India has 9 species of vulture in the wild. However, there has been a constant decline in the population, pushing them to the brink of extinction. Diclofenac sodium is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug administered to reduce inflammations and to reduce pain in certain conditions is a probable cause for the decline. Now, diclofenac sodium is associated with renal failure, that is kidney failures in vultures who are unable to break down the chemical diclofenac when they eat carcass of animal administered with the drug. Considering this, meloxicam is being used as a replacement for diclofenac. Saving Asia's vultures from extinction, that is SAVE, is a consortium led by like-minded regional and international organizations created to oversee and coordinate conservation, campaigning, and fundraising activities to help the plight of South Asian vultures. Now, partners involved in this consortium are Bird Conservation Nepal, Bombay Natural History Society, and International Centre for Bird of Prey UK, National Trust for Nature Conservation Nepal, Royal Society for the Protection of Birds UK. Now, Seed Alder project was launched in collaboration with UNDP in November 1999. Wildlife Institute of India is the implementing agency of the project. While the project is being implemented in 10 coastal states of the country, special emphasis is laid on the state of Odisha. Project Hangul, the Kashmiri stag, also known as Hangul, is a subspecies of Central Asian red deer. In Kashmir, it is found in Danchingam National Park. To counter its declining population, Project Hangul was launched by the government of Jammu and Kashmir along with IUCN and WWF. Now, captive breeding leaves, which is also known as captive propagation, is the process of maintaining plant and animals in controlled environments, such as wildlife reserves, zoos, botanical gardens, and other conservation facilities. Example: captive breeding of lion-tailed macaw in Arinnar Annak Zoological Park, Chennai. Now, biodiversity conservation measures include some of the international biodiversity conservation measures include for tiger conservation, we have Global Tiger Initiative 2008. It is an alliance of government, international organizations like World Bank and civil societies. It aims to save wild tigers from extinction, and its scope was recently broadened to include snow leopards. The initiative is led by 13 tiger range countries including India, China, Russia, Nepal, and Bhutan. Now, St. Petersburg Declaration on Tiger Conservation was adopted in 2010 under the Global Tiger Initiative. TX2 was endorsed. Now, TX2 aims at developing the number of wild tigers. Conservation Assured Tiger Standards is a set of criteria which allows tiger sites to check if their management will lead to successful tiger conservation. It is part of TX2. The first interstate tiger translocation took place from Bandhavgarh Tiger Reserve in Madhya Pradesh to Satkosia Tiger Reserve in Odisha. Now, NTCA is the nodal authority for cheetah reintroduction program. Cheetah is a keystone species of the grassland, and its reintroduction will help dryland ecosystem of India to return to their natural state. Elephant conservation is our national heritage animal protected under Schedule 1 of WPA and Appendix 1 of CITES. Now, Gaj Yatra is a nationwide campaign led by WTI, an international fund for animal welfare. Both NGOs protect elephants. Project Elephant is a centrally sponsored scheme launched in 1992 for elephant conservation. Now, Asian Elephant Alliance, launched in 2015 in London, is an umbrella of 5 non-governmental organizations, that is NGOs: Elephant Family, IFAW, IUCN Netherlands, World Land Trust, and WTI. Now, rhino conservation. For rhino conservation, we have New Delhi Declaration on Asian Rhinos 2016 for the conservation and protection of species was signed by 5 Asian rhino range countries: India, Nepal, Bhutan, Indonesia, and Malaysia. Now, Indian Rhino Vision of 2020 is implemented by the Assam government with support of WWF India. The goal was set to populate potential rhino habitat areas identified, which are Manas National Park, Dibru Saikova Wildlife Sanctuary, Lakhova Wildlife Sanctuary, Bura Chopari Wildlife Sanctuary, Orang, with a viable population of rhinos through translocation from Kaziranga National Park and Povitra Wildlife Sanctuary. Accordingly, a special rhino protection force has been established from people living in the fringe areas of Kaziranga National Park. Now, snow leopard conservation. Global Snow Leopard and Ecosystem Program, that is GSLEP, is an intergovernmental alliance of 12 snow leopard range countries. Now, Project Snow Leopard is a centrally sponsored scheme launched for the protection and preservation of snow leopards, and its operation in five Himalayan states, that is Jammu and Kashmir, Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand, Sikkim, and Arunachal Pradesh. The Secure Himalaya project is a part of global partnership with wildlife conservation and crime prevention for sustainable development, that is Global Wildlife Program, funded by GEF, that is Global Environment Facility. Now, the program promotes sustainable management of alpine pastures and forests in high range Himalayan ecosystems to secure conservation of globally significant wildlife, including endangered snow leopards and their habitats, to ensure sustainable livelihood, socio-economic benefit for communities in the selected high latitude landscape in Trans and Greater Himalayan regions. Now, Operation Save Kurma was conducted by Crime Control Bureau to combat the rising illegal trade in live turtles and its parts from the country. Now, India's first wildlife conservation reserve dedicated exclusively to black buck will be set up in the Trans Yamuna region of Allahabad in UP. Black bucks are native to Indian subcontinent and has been classified as least concern by the IUCN. Few national parks and sanctuaries inhabited by black bucks include Velavadar Wildlife Sanctuary in Gujarat, Rainbenur Blackbird Sanctuary in Karnataka. Now, Crocodile Conservation and Breeding Project was initially launched in Odisha in 1975 and subsequently in other states with technical help from FAO and UNDP. India is home to three species of crocodile, that is Gharial, which is critically endangered, Magar, which is vulnerable, and saltwater crocodile, which is least concern. Now, Bhitarkanika mangroves is said to house 70% of India's estuarine or saltwater crocodile conservation, whose conservation started in 1975. Now, South Asian Wildlife Encroachment Network, that is SWEN, is a regional intergovernmental wildlife law enforcement support body launched in 2011 in Paro, Bhutan. Its secretariat is located in Kathmandu, Nepal, and SWEN's regional network comprises of 8 South Asian countries, which are Afghanistan, India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bhutan, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, and Maldives. Now, Central Asian Flyway is among the 9 flyways in the world. It encompasses overlapping migratory routes over 30 countries from different water birds, linking their northmost breeding grounds in Siberia to their southmost non-breeding wintering grounds in West and South Asia, the Maldives, and the British Indian Ocean Territory. Now, India has a strategic role in the flyway as it provides critical stopover sites to birds known to use these migratory routes. Now, birds from the three different flyways, that is Central Asian Flyway, the East Asian Australasia Flyway, and Asian East African Flyway, are reported to visit Indian subcontinent. Now, cultural model of conservation is a concept which respects the right of indigenous people and other bearers of traditional knowledge and prevents social conflicts. Under this mode, human presence is not considered a threat to nature, rather both coexist and support each other. Some of the applications of cultural model of conservation by different tribes include Bishnoi tribe of Rajasthan, who consider trees as sacred; Chenchu tribes of Andhra Pradesh, who are involved in tiger conservation in Nagarjun Sagar Sirisalam Tiger Reserve. Now, Maldhari tribes of Gujarat, living in peaceful coexistence with the lion; Bugun tribes of Arunachal, known for protecting the critically endangered bird Bugun liochula; Nishi tribes in Arunachal conserving hornbills in Phakwi Phake Tiger Reserve. Now, Government of India in partnership with UNDP India initiated the Indian Biodiversity Award. The award is conferred by the National Biodiversity Authority, which is a statutory body established under the Biological Diversity Act of 2002. Asian waterbirds waterfowl census is a part of International Waterbird Census and was held recently in India. It was jointly coordinated by Bombay Natural History Society and Wetland International. Now, the Bombay Natural History Society is an NGO in India engaged in conservation and biodiversity research. It is a partner of BirdLife International and has been designated as a scientific and industrial research organization by Department of Science and Technology. Its logo is the Great Hornbill. Now, Wetland International is a global non-for-profit organization dedicated to the conservation and restoration of wetland. Its headquarters is at Netherlands. Now, BirdLife International is a global partnership of non-government organizations that strives to conserve birds and their habitats. It identifies important birds and biodiversity areas. Its headquarters is at Cambridge, United Kingdoms. Now, India recently hosted the Global Wildlife Program, during which India's National Wildlife Action Plan, that is NWAP, for the period of 2017 to 1831 was released. Global Wildlife Program was launched with the aim of working towards wildlife conservation and sustainable development by fighting against illicit trafficking in wildlife. Implementing agencies include World Bank, UNDP, UNEP, Asian Development Bank. Now, NWAP launched during the Global Wildlife Program has several components like following landscape approach towards conservation, increasing role of private sector through corporate social responsibility, and preserving our genetic diversity. It is the third action plan that comes after the first action plan in 1983 and the second from 2002 to 2016. Now, Laboratory for Conservation of Endangered Species, that is LACONS, is a dedicated laboratory of CSIR, Hyderabad. It is only institute in the country working towards conservation of endangered wildlife using modern biotechnology. Now, Biosphere Reserves is an international designation by UNESCO for representing parts of natural and cultural landscape extending over large areas of terrestrial, coastal, or marine ecosystem, or a combination of both. Now, Biosphere Reserves tries to balance both economic and social development and maintenance of associated cultural values along with preservation of nature. In a way, BRs are living examples that nature and human beings can coexist with respect to each other's need. Now, criteria for BR is that the site must contain protected and minimally disturbed core area. The core area must be a biogeographical unit large enough to sustain viable populations of all trophic levels. Involvement of local communities and use of their knowledge in biodiversity preservation. Now, biodiversity reserves have examples of harmonious landscape resulting from traditional patterns of land use. Biosphere reserves, which includes a core area, a buffer zone, and a transition zone. Now, the core area is the most protected area of the Biosphere Reserve and may contain endemic plants and animals. A core zone is kept free from human interface. And buffer zone, the buffer zone surrounds the core zone, and activities in this zone are managed in a way that the core zone is protected in its natural condition. Research and educational activities are encouraged in this zone. Transition zone, it is the outermost part of the Biosphere Reserve where human ventures and conservations are done in harmony. This area includes human settlements, croplands, and other areas for intensive recreation. The functions of biosphere reserves include conservation, development, and logistic supports. Presently, there are 18 biosphere reserves in India. Biosphere reserves are not intended to replace existing protected areas, rather, it widens the scope of environmental protection and strengthens the protected area network. Existing legally protected areas like national parks, wildlife sanctuaries, and tiger reserves may also become a part of biosphere reserves without change in their legal status. Man and Biosphere Program is a UNESCO's intergovernmental scientific program launched in 1971 that aims to establish a scientific basis for improvement of relationships between people and their environments. Now, MAB combines natural and social sciences, economics, education to improve human livelihoods and equitable sharing of benefits and to safeguard natural and manage ecosystems. 12 out of the 18 biosphere reserves are part of World Network of Biosphere Reserves based on UNESCO's Man Biosphere Program list. Now, Biodiversity Hotspots is a biogeographical region with significant level of biodiversity that is threatened by human habitation. These are found throughout the world and not just confined to tropics. As per Conservation International, to qualify as a biodiversity hotspot, a region must qualify two strict criteria. Species endemism. It must contain at least 1500 species of vascular plants, and degree of threat is that it should have lost at least 70% of original habitat. That is to say that it has retained 30% of its original habitat. Now, Indian biodiversity hotspots are the Himalayas, Indo-Burma region, the Western Ghats, and the Sundarlands. These are in, I think, Nicobar Islands. Some hotspots are much richer than the other in terms of biodiversity. They are classified as hottest hotspots. Factors taken into consideration while defining hottest hotspots include endemic plants, endemic vertebrates, endemic plant area ratio, endemic vertebrate area ratio, primary vegetation as a percentage of original extent. Now, Madagascar, Philippines, Sunderland, Indo-Burma, Western Ghats, Sri Lanka, Brazil's Atlantic forest, Caribbean, Eastern Arc, coastal forest of Tanzania, Kenya are example of hottest hotspots. Now, biodiversity cold spots are area that are relatively that have relatively low biological diversity but are also experiencing a high rate of habitat loss are considered as biodiversity cold spots. Although biodiversity cold spot is low in species richness, it is important to conserve as it may be home to rare flora and fauna. Now, World Heritage Sites. World Heritage Site is a place that is listed by UNESCO for its special cultural or physical significance. The list of World Heritage Site is maintained by International World Heritage Program administered by UNESCO's World Heritage Committee. Now, India has 38 World Heritage Sites that include 30 cultural properties, 7 natural properties, and 1 mixed site. Now, ESZs and ESAs, eco-sensitive zones and eco-sensitive areas, are not mentioned in the Environment Protection Act. However, Section 3, Subclause 2(5) of the Act says that the central government can restrict areas in which any industries, operations, or processes shall not be carried out or shall be carried out subject to certain safeguards. Now, besides that, Section 5 of this Act says that the central government can prohibit, restrict the location of industries and carrying on certain operation or processes on the basis of considerations like biological diversity of an area, maximum allowable limits of concentration of pollutants for an area, and environmentally compatible land use and proximity to protected areas. The above two clauses have been effectively used by the government to declare ESZs and ESAs. The same criteria have been used by the government to declare no development zones. The Supreme Court has recently directed the Union Ministry of Environment to declare 10-kilometer area around 21 national parks and wildlife sanctuaries across the country as ECZs. Activities prohibited in these ECZs include commercial mining, polluting industries, major hydroelectric projects, etc. On the other hand, rainwater harvesting, organic farming, ongoing agricultural practices, etc. are permitted.